everybody, Jim from Jim's Coleus. Hey, we're finally getting some spring weather here in New Jersey. Of course, it feels warmer than it actually is. The sun is really beautiful. I guess it's, I didn't really look at the temperature. I think we're closer in the mid 60s. So, but of course in the greenhouse here, it's much nicer, but it's getting that time. Coleus are still growing. The germinations are still, there's a few that I'm probably gonna pot today, which is good. That's really what I wanted. My goal is to slowly pot them and not have a whole bunch at once. But what are you guys doing with your rootings? I get so many questions about, you know, when can I pot my rootings? What do you do with your rootings? Should I keep them in water or what? So I'm gonna pot. I don't have a lot of rootings this year. If you've been following along, you remember in my last video, I really didn't keep a whole lot of rootings. There are a few smaller Coleus cuttings that I rooted specifically to pot. And you can pot your rootings at any time. If you want to keep them indoors, I keep my rootings in water in the colored vases for decorations, and also eventually over the winter, once we get into spring, to pot them outside. So and there's some, like the small one I'm going to show you, eventually somebody is going to buy it. So all right, so let's take a look. I'll show you a couple of things, what you need to do, how to pot your rootings. All right, so again, you don't have to use Miracle-Gro. I recommend it. There's two different types. There's the moisture control potting mix, and then there's the regular Miracle-Gro potting mixture, not topsoil, potting mixture, which is a little finer, has some other ingredients in it that helps maintain moisture. There's some vermiculite, and there might be some like little shavings, wood shavings and so forth that retain moisture, and the moisture control has a little more of those. So I've learned over the years that you get what you pay for. The really cheap inferior potting mix, I found that my Coleus just don't do well. They don't grow as well, even putting fertilizer in. But anyway, we just again, I bought two of these. This is a 50 quart, so I have two of these, and I'll usually go through almost 2.5 of these, so like 100 and maybe 125 quarts of potting mixture through the whole season, or maybe more. So here's a little rooting. We're gonna pot, and I'm gonna do a lot because it's so beautiful out today. I'm gonna do the potting of just the rootings today. I'm not gonna do the separations yet, just the rooting. So if you're following along and you want to know how to root your you want to know how to pot your rootings, this is your video. So okay, so just purpose of this video here are basically the smaller rootings that I kept, mostly jitters and just jitters and a couple of, and 2 or 3 Darth Vaders, and I have some other larger, taller stem Coleus, like the Inky Fingers, and I have a Defiance or 2 inside, which will go on in these pots here among some other Coleus each year. And if you're following along, you know how beautiful these big planters are. So they're still covered up for the winter. We'll start unwrapping those when the time comes. But anyway, here we go. Here are the rootings. Again, you can keep these all year long if you want. I mean, it's a nice little decorative stand here. I actually took one of the rootings out, and here it is. And I just put it in this little pot. This is keeping the kitchen. But anyway, these are all going to get potted, and I'll just basically show you. I have 3 little types. They have the larger. Again, these I got at the Dollar General. I haven't seen them yet this year, so I don't know. They've been out a few years now, so I bought several hundred of them online direct from them, but they don't offer direct shipping on some of their stuff. Family Dollar has some, but I've yet to find these again. So, but I have about 10 left over from last year, but I bought several hundred. You know, again, whatever pots you decide to use, if you're potting your Coleus, drill drain holes on the bottom. I can't stress that enough. Drain holes. you need to have drain holes so the water doesn't sit and rot the roots. And these little nursery pots come with drain holes. So, and what I'm going to do is, this guy's been here from last year. I'm going to put this into a bigger pot. Let me put it in here. So, that's ready to go. Beautiful, beautiful Coleus. I love these jitters. So let's get going. Okay, I'll break up the potting mixture a little bit. Some, you know, when you first open them up, they're pretty moist already. These were in the holding yard at Home Depot, so it's very moist already. Remember, we're going to be putting this in here, so we need to make an allowance for that. I got a little carried away. So I'm just going to put a little at the bottom. These will pop right out. All right, got some in the bottom here. You want it so it's just above the rim of the planter. And you know, again, Coleus are pretty strong. They're pretty resilient. So, you know, if you break something, a stem, whatever, just put it in water and root it. Just really going around the edges. I'm going to give this a little bit of water because it was already well watered. The moist, it's already pretty moist. So, looks pretty good. So also just remember, after you pot something like that, a transplant like this, it may look like it's declining a day or two. That's just the shock of being transplanted. But again, these are so resilient. They're such tough monsters. They're tough little fellas. Probably not. So it's potted well. I'm going to put a little bit of, I have some Job's plant food spikes. I'm going to throw a couple in there. And that'll take care of the fertilizer. But you can see she looks pretty good. Okay, so I looked at all the different rootings that I have here, and again, this is really by choice. I decided that we're going to do this as little jitters. It's got roots, but it's not an extensive root ball. So just make a little hole in the center. You may see some roots on the top. Make a hole in the center and pat down around the center, around the edges rather. You know, you don't want to really compact it, but you want to make sure that the Coleus is in. If you see any leaves that fall off here. And then what I'm going to do, as you can see, I still got some room there on the bottom. I'm going to take a little potting mixture, and you know, when you first open up the potting mixture, especially if it's moist and wet like this isn't soaked. When I picked them up, they were pretty saturated. I just kind of, you know, crumble up. There's maybe some balls of potting soil that kind of ball together. Just crumble that up a little bit, and there we go. And again, I'm going to throw like one Job's or Miracle Grow plant food stick. General purpose. Make sure you're using general purpose plant food. General purpose plant food, either sticks, liquid, or the time release petals, or the time release fertilizer pellets. There we go. Pat it down, center it, and take a look. And we got some room. Again, these are pretty resilient. They'll show they may show a little bit of stress from being potted right away. Just make sure. Now, like I mentioned, that this soil is pretty moist already. I'm gonna put the food spike in, but I am gonna give it a shot of water just to minimize the shock. But I decided to use these. I different pots out here, but I decided, just really looking at the rootings that I have, what to do. But for purpose of this video, show you guys, it's really easy, and they're your rootings, so you decide what you want to do. If you want to pot them, you could do it now, but there's no rule, because remember now, these rootings have been inside since August. So I'm doing it now because it's spring, and it's the time for me. So what you want to do with your rootings is your business. Don't let me or anybody else tell you what to do with them. See, spring colors. Look at this. This is beautiful. All right, let's real quick. Let's move some of these. Here's a couple of sort of a backwash of the light, but you can see there's the three we just potted. These are the jitters. There's the other jitters that we just potted, and there's that combo Darth Vader colossal marble. We're gonna get potted. We're going to repot that later on. Got this rustic from over the winter also. We're going to repot this. Or actually, I may not. I'm going to trim it a little bit as it starts to develop. I'm going to add a little more potting soil to it. Trim it a little, see how it goes, because it's a good size. Once this fills out, it's going to be a beautiful Coleus. We'll let that go. I still got another jitters rooting here. As you can see, the germinations are getting close. I could start to separate these now. So if you're wondering what's a good size, you can separate at this size, but I'm going to wait another week or a few days. So get your stuff ready. But we got plenty of time, and I'm glad to see my germinations are coming in at different rates. These are really, really overseeded. So, and we got some of the wishbone terranias, so that's good, and a couple of the other rootings. So, but anyway, I got these beautiful pots in today, little hanging pots, and the hangers actually come off. Okay, so if you're following along, and I have a new background display of Bobo. I had this done. Let me give you a close-up. And this is a little cute thing I found on Instagram. I think it's guiltypaws.com. And this is Beauregard, or, I was going to have one done of Newton. If you're following along, I lost my beloved Yorkie Newton. But I decided to have Bobo done because he had a little better picture for this. So, yeah, if you're following along and you're going to be separating your Coleus, if you're using Jiffy pods like me and so forth, you still have another, I was going to do it this week, but just really looking at the Coleus, I'm going to give it another week or so. Check back. Meantime, pot some rootings, and I'll go real quick what I use if you're going to be following along to separate your Coleus germinations into little pots. Okay, here are the nursery pots that I told you guys about. I use these year after year. I only get a few years out of them and I throw them out. But I only use them, for the most part, to grow the Coleus until they get to a certain point. And then I transfer them. That's when later on in June, May, June, when I create my pots, I'll pop them out of here and then reuse them. But what I do is before I use these each year, I put them in the sink. I soak them in hot water with like a teaspoon, 2 teaspoons of bleach. Let them sit for about 15 minutes. Then rinse them, drain them, then re-clean them with a little bit of detergent and water. Rinse them real well, make sure the bleach is out of there. That sanitizes, kills any kind of germs that may be left over. And you can still see there's some left over from last year. I mean, I got hundreds of these, so I don't have the time to go crazy on them, but they get rinsed out real well just to make sure that there's no contamination for the new pots, the new potting soil that's going to go in here. But basically, for me, I have at least 20, 25 of these trays. They hold about 13 of these. These are the smaller nursery, soft nursery pots. I love these because they're soft, they pop. Once the Coleus are in here and they get pretty much established, they pop out just like a cupcake. And I can drop them into a pot, whatever. If you're following along, you know how I just kind of pop them out and create larger pots and so forth. But if you're following along, and when we get to separating the Coleus, which should be in another week or so, I'm going to start doing the majority of them. Week, maybe two. Now that the warm weather is starting to kick in, they're going to start to really accelerate. So get yourself some of these. And again, you don't have to do this. This is my system. Just a guide. You can use anything. Depends. I mean, if you're only growing 2025, you can use any kind of pot you want. But if you're doing similar to me, where you're growing a few hundred or 100 or 50 or whatever, you get these pots. I get these little catering trays. They hold the pots real easy for being indoors, so I could transport them from here to my greenhouse outside, and it makes it easier to water them and so forth. So again, soft nursery pots, you can get them dollar store, or I get them in bulk on Amazon or whatever. They're really, really good. Again, use the Miracle Grow potting mixture moisture control. And I have tons of them in my greenhouse, tons of them, and I'll fill every single shelf here will have trays, and then by then it hopefully will be warm enough to bring my trays out into the greenhouse, and we'll get into that later. But anyway, again, here are a bunch of pots. They're already cleaned, as I mentioned earlier. Perfect for starting your Coleus or whatever, vegetables. Perfect for any plant, not just Coleus. So those are all ready to go. I generally try to keep one Coleus per pot if I can, but some of them I'll put 2 Coleus per pot because of the space constraint. So, but that's what you need. Again, Miracle Grow potting mixture, these little nursery pots, trays. These are catering trays. You can get them online, or go to a catering hall. Maybe they have some old ones. Or you can go to the dollar store. They have some other trays. They're not quite as strong as these. Again, I use these to carry my nursery pots to the farmer's market, because I also have plenty of just Coleus in these nursery pots left over. I sell for like $1 or $2 a piece. Okay, so stay tuned. If you're following on Instagram, I'll give you a heads up when we'll be actually filming the separation of the germinations, if you're following along. So meantime, get your stuff ready. My video will be posted so you can follow along at your leisure. There's definitely not a strict time frame that you have to get these done when I'm doing them. Depends on where you live. If you're obviously in the South, you can grow these all year long. But if you're up in Minnesota and so forth, you only have a narrower window of grow time to get your Coleus outdoors, or if you're going to put a pot outside. But regardless, don't feel that you need to be exactly where I'm at. I have my videos; they're posted, so you can reference back to them at your leisure. So, all right, any questions or comments? You know where I'm at. Right here, you leave a comment below. Follow along on Instagram. Follow me on Instagram. Best place to get a hold of me. Again, if you need some seeds, I got about 10 packs of Jim's Coleus seeds. Go over to my eBay store, my eBay listing. Get some Jim's Coleus seeds. Not too late to grow your seeds. It's not too late to grow Coleus. You can plant your seeds now. So don't feel like you know that you missed a train. You can grow them now. You can start your Coleus now. So, all right, thanks for watching. Stay tuned for the upcoming video on separating Coleus. Take care, everyone. See you next time.